so. Hey guys, it is Sabo here, and I am back with another edition of Sports Talk with Sabo. And today I am joined by my special guest, Ron Guidry, the pitching legend from the New York Yankees. And without any further ado, let's get this interview started. So, you grew up in Louisiana, and there weren't really Major League Baseball teams close to you. How did you become interested in the game, and what team or players were you a fan of?
Okay, let me ask you a question. When you're young and you go to school all week, what do you like to do on the weekends?
Have fun.
Have fun. So you know what happened to me?
What?
When I'd come to the weekend after a week of school, my mom would lock me in the house so she could watch the games. And the only games that were broadcast at the time were the New York Yankees or the St. Louis Cardinals. Okay. So that's how I got involved with who the New York Yankees were.
Wow, that's very cool. You have two of the most well-known nicknames in baseball history, Gator and Louisiana Lightning. Who gave you those nicknames and how did they come about?
Okay, now you're right, I have two. One of them is my true nickname. Okay. And your nickname is probably given to you by your friends, correct?
Yeah.
Well, all my friends on the team referred to me as Gator because alligators in Louisiana are abundant. So they associate that with me. But nobody's going to call you alligator. So they cut it Gator for short.
Wow.
That's the name that my teammates gave me, and that's the one that I'm more receptive to. Louisiana Lightning was a name that Phil Rizzuto stuck on me the night that I had a lot of the strikeouts against California that everybody remembers. So somewhere in that game, he uttered the phrase about something and he added Louisiana Lightning to it. So that name stuck too.
Wow.
And it's pretty, but it's not fun to sign.
It's a very good nickname, and I think it's one of the best nicknames there is out there because you played like lightning.
Well, it was fun, Sabo. It's fun when you refer to it. I answer to both, but Gator is my true nickname. Yeah.
So it's well known that you had a special relationship with Yogi Berra. Can you tell me a little bit about that, how it started, and what it was like being his personal chauffeur?
Oh, that's nice of you to say. Yogi and I were friends because he was a coach of ours in the 70s with Billy Martin. So we became good friends then, and all of the years that he stayed away from Yankee Stadium because of the differences in him and Mr. Steinbrenner. Once it was all settled and he accepted Mr. Steinbrenner's apology and he started to return to the stadium. Knowing Yogi, I met him at a banquet one night and I asked him, when you find out your itinerary in spring training, if you coming, call me, I'll pick you up at the airport. But I forgot how traditional he was, because if you do something with Yogi one time, it stays like that. So if I picked him up at the airport, nobody else picks him up at the airport. That's how it is. If I take him to one restaurant, that's it. Nobody else takes him to that restaurant. But that's how he is. So when he started coming back around 2000, back to spring training, him and I just hooked up. I took care of him. I picked him up at the airport. We'd go out to supper. We'd sit on the bench during the baseball games. And that's how our relationship grew. And that's what a lot of people didn't know until him and I wrote a book about each other, about how close we were, actually. And it's just, for Yogi, he's a national treasure.
Yeah.
Okay, so for me, to be like his personal thing, it was fun. Okay, it's not what it started out to be. That's not how everybody envisioned it.
Yeah.
It's just, that's what became of it. It's just a special friendship that two men shared.
Wow, that's an awesome relationship. So there's obviously a huge demand for sports collectibles and a large marketplace for them. I'm curious, are you a collector yourself? And is there anything special you've kept from your career?
Yes, I've kept things from my career, like my uniform. after the 1978 season, because it was so special, the clubhouse guys gave me that uniform that I wore. So I have that uniform at my house. The only problem about it, when you look at it now, it seems it's about this big. It's shrunk over time. It's small. So I have that. I even have the glove that I pitched with, but I had all my teammates sign that glove.
Oh, okay.
And I saved that glove. I think if I remember correctly, I still have the glove that I used.
Awesome.
From that year, like my shagging glove, I have that. I think I got the shoes, but that's basically all I have. Now, as far as other memorabilia, I don't, unless I'm given something, I don't usually ask for things.
Okay.
I don't have a lot of autographs from other people, and yet I meet all these famous people,
Yeah.
but I don't ask them for autographs. I mean, I go through it all the time, so you kind of like want to be left alone.
Okay.
And it's okay when you're noticed, but that's not what I like to do. I don't like to bother people about the autographs.
So that's awesome, because me and you share in common sports collectibles, and I recently just learned that you and I also have something in common. This past year I started playing the drums, and I understand that when you were younger, you were also a drummer.
Yes.
Sometime towards the end of the 1977 season, or early in the 1978 season, you purchased a relatively expensive drum set and brought it to Yankee Stadium, where you would play on a regular basis. I'm fascinated by this, and I have a million questions that I want to ask.
You're going to ask one.
What was it about the drums that you like so much?
Okay, well, what you're going to find out, they're fun to play.
Yeah.
Okay, you know that they're fun to play. But what you're going to find out as a baseball player, we use our hands a lot. Okay? So I'm a pitcher. I use my hands a lot. I played the drums when I was young, probably your age. I started playing. Same thing. When I got to high school, got to college, I played in a band. That's how we made our money for the weekend.
Okay.
Okay, and if you do that, you'll experience that.
Yeah.
But what I found out about playing the drums, which you probably already know because I'm sure you went through it, when you first started playing, did your wrist get sore?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. But what the drums do for you, because you got to play so much, because you got to move them so much, that they keep your wrist tremendously strong.
Oh.
And as a pitcher, I always remembered that when I was younger, I never had problems with my wrist because it kept them strong. To be able to break curveballs, sliders, to throw fastballs, what do? You do this all the time. So playing the drums, you do the same thing. So it would keep my wrist very strong. Well, when I signed and I left to play in the minor leagues, I couldn't purchase drums and carry them with me everywhere I traveled. But when I got to the major leagues, I was at one stadium with one team. So what I did was I went to the guy who ran the stadium, and I explained to him what I'd like to do. I'd like to buy me a set of drums, but I need a place to store them. Do you have a place that I could store them so I could play to keep my wrist strong? And he said, I got the special place. And he brought me to a place that they store all of the paraphernalia that they give for giveaway days. Calendars, bats, balls, whatever it is. It's in a huge room. He took me in that room and he brought me in the back, and we walked through the room. We made a little left-hand turn. We walked down a little corridor, and when we turned around, they had a room maybe 30 by 30 or 30 by 40. It was empty. He said, this is yours. Wow. So I bought that set of drums. I set them up there, and I play them in there almost every day.
That's awesome. What did your teammates think about your drumming abilities?
Well, they didn't know at first. I didn't even tell them for a while until somebody found out, and then they wanted to come down. So there were only two keys to that room. The head guy at the stadium had one, and I had the other one. So you couldn't get in there unless you came with me or you got him to open you the door. So throughout the years, okay, because I kept them until I retired. I still have them today, but they're all packed up. I don't play them today because I don't pitch. I don't need them. So, but anyway, unless you came with me or you got him to open the door, you couldn't get in. But over the years, a lot of the guys come, and I would have musicians that would come down there and play.
Wow.
I even had one of the guy, you know a guy by the name of Buddy Rich?
I do.
You ever heard of him?
Mm-hmm.
He came down to play on him one time.
That's
I
awesome.
played for him. I showed him what I could do, and then he showed me what he could do. We're not even close to what he could do.
So, as you just mentioned, Buddy Rich did come to Yankee Stadium, and there's a photograph of you two
Him and I, yes.
together
Yes.
at the ballpark.
Yes.
That is an image I would like to see and have in my collection someday.
Well, I don't know whatever happened to that picture. Okay. I wish I would have thought about trying to get that picture. But of course, I have my memories. But I also have something from him. He used to play on the Johnny Carson show
Okay.
often. It's a late night show. Your dad probably knows. I'm sure he was not on when you were born as you're a young man. But your dad probably remembers. But he used to play on Johnny Carson late night. And when he'd play, he had a set of Pearl Singerland drums. Okay?
Wow.
That was his drum set that he played on there. Well, he gave me his floor tom and
Wow.
his ride cymbal from that set when he was retired and he didn't play anymore.
That's amazing.
He gave them to me, and I still have them. They're
That's
packed up
amazing.
with my sets of drums.
So, what was it like to meet him? Because people refer to him as the greatest at his craft.
Right. Well, when I first met him, the first thing he asked me was, he looked at me and he says, "Why are you trying to take my job?" and I said, "Pardon me?" He said, "Well, you see, him and I were introduced because a good friend of mine by the name of Jack Scarangelo, who is a professional drummer, okay, but he was Buddy Rich's protege.
Okay.
Buddy taught him. He worked with Buddy. And that's how Buddy and I met. Jack would always go to visit Buddy, and he would tell Buddy where he was. And Buddy said, you know, one of these days I'd really love to meet him. So that's how it all came about that we met.
Wow.
So when I first met Buddy, and Jack and I and Buddy was sitting where that picture was taken that day, he said, "Jack told me, you know, that you played. I didn't believe it until he showed me pictures and stuff." And he said, "But my question would be to you, why do you want to take my job?"
Yeah.
And I said, "I'm not trying to take your job. All I'm trying to do is to stay strong enough to be able to pitch and do my job as good as you can do your job." So he laughed at that, and that's how him and I became friends.
That's awesome. So we're in Troy, New York today, where later this evening you're going to be inducted into the brand new New York State Baseball Hall of Fame. What does an honor like this mean to you, and what is it like having your lifetime friend and Hall of Famer, Goose Gossage, on hand to present your induction?
Well, I can answer that question real quick. I'm surprised that he left Colorado just to come to give me an award, because even though him and I are great friends, yesterday was the opening of hunting season in Colorado. And I know for a fact, because I'm a hunter also, that most of the time we don't do very many things to
During
give
hunting
up our
season.
hunting season for somebody else. But I appreciate that it's him, because him and I are very great friends. And if there was anybody that would give me my award, I'm glad that it's him. And the other thing is, you know, of course, born in Louisiana, I've been inducted into the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame. That was a great honor, because your state is honoring you.
Yeah.
Now, the state of New York is doing the same thing here. And even though technically I don't belong to the state of New York, they're putting me in because of what I did with the team that all New Yorkers love.
Yeah.
Okay, now for me personally, I have been to New York so often since I've been retired that it's almost become like a second home to me.
Yeah.
So if I had to move out of the state of Louisiana, I'd probably move up here somewhere in New York.
Wow.
Because it's become like a second home. So for me, it's great because now I have my own state that blessed me with that honor, and now the state of New York is blessing me with that honor. So I think I'm a pretty lucky guy.
So your teammate and friend Thurman Munson will also be inducted this evening, along with several other outstanding baseball players and members of the baseball community who have made significant contributions to the game in New York State. You'll be presenting Thurman for induction. What impact did he have on your life, and how does it make you feel knowing that Thurman's wife, Diana, and children Tracy, Kelly, and Mike will be in attendance to accept this honor on his behalf?
Well, that all goes back, to when you're playing. It all starts, I'm a young kid, I'm trying to make a name for myself, and I get to pitch to one of the best catchers in the game. And when you get to spring training, your goal is to get to a World Series, okay? That's your goal. When you get there, of course, everybody wants to win, because once you win your first World Series, it's the culmination of all of that hard work that you went through to get there.
Yeah.
So in 1976, I was on the team that went to the World Series, but we lost to the Cincinnati Reds. I don't think anybody would have beat the Cincinnati Reds. They had a great team. So, but the next year in 1977, we had a different team, and we were good. We knew we were good, and we eventually went to the World Series. And we were looking forward to playing Cincinnati again, but the Dodgers won the championship. So we had to play the Dodgers. So when you get to that first World Series, and all of a sudden I went from a young kid who was a reliever, not pitching, to one of the top starters that the team had. So my success is not only from what I'm doing. I need a guy to help me get through and take away all the pressure off of me to do my job. I was lucky that I had a guy like a Thurman Munson, one of the best catchers in the game. And our first conversation as a pitcher and a catcher, he told me, all I want you to do is trust me. If you see me give you this, and that's the fastball, give me the best one you got.
Okay.
If you see me give you this, that's your slider. Mm-hmm. Give me the best one you got. That's the only two pitches you throw. You don't need to know anything else. This is the best one you got. That's the best one you got. Let's go get him. Wow. And that's it. That's all he ever told me. So that's all I did. I trusted him to call the right pitches. And I'm not going to make the right pitches all the time. They won't be perfect.
Yeah.
Good hitters are going to hit some good pitches. They even hit the mistake ones. You've got to tip your cap. But what he did for me was he transformed me into one of the best starters in the game at the time. So that's the kind of guy he was like. As far as his family and my family have been close ever since those days.
Yeah.
Even more so because now he's not here and your families bond together. His children, my children, some of them are the same ages. So we all grew up, we all move on. And for me tonight to be able to present Diane with his award is going to be very good because we're close as families.
It's going to be a special night.
It's going to be a special night. You're right.
So now it's time for the final segment of the interview, and I like to call it the quick pitch segment. It's just a bunch of really quick questions that you answer with like a word or two.
I'll try.
What is your favorite movie?
Magnificent Seven. It's Cowboy Western.
What is your all-time favorite TV show?
I don't think you remember, but Sea Hunt.
Okay. Who is your favorite actor or actress?
My favorite actor, I had too many, but I really liked Steve McQueen.
Who is your favorite musician or musical group?
Favorite, I can't answer that. Temptations would be as good as I could get you.
What is your favorite food?
Gumbo.
What is your favorite car that you have owned?
A Corvette.
Other than Yankee Stadium, what was your favorite stadium to pitch in and why?
Fenway Park.
Who is the toughest batter for you to get out?
George Brett.
If you were starting a baseball team today, who would your first draft pick be?
Garrett Cole.
Jamie, Danielle, or Brandon, who is your favorite kid?
That's impossible to say.
Just kidding. Now, I know you're a big bird hunter and sometimes you trade for squirrel. What's the best way to cook a squirrel?
Cook it in a stew because you have to cook it long.
That's it?
That's it.
Thank you so much for doing this. That is going to conclude today's episode of Sports Talk with Sabo. I want to thank my special guest, Ron Guidry, for doing this. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Sabo.
I really hope you guys did enjoy, and peace out, Sabonators.